Hey, it's Dr. Darcy, host of E! Network's Famously Single. I am here for our post-episode 6 extra credit. This is where I teach you extra things that we didn't have time to put in the show, and I am joined today by one of my favorite people on this planet. You know him as my dating expert, Mr. Robert Mack from Famously Single. Welcome, Robert.
What's up, Darcy?
Thank you for joining me.
You're kidding me? Thank you for having me.
Oh, don't be... my honor, my honor. So listen, I want to jump right in and talk about last night's episode. In particular, I want to talk about, because we were both getting we live tweet during the broadcast, and we were both getting tons and tons of feedback on that scene where I met with Callum, and we spoke about how he needs to manage his emotions around his temper. So the topic of today is managing your emotions around disagreements or having difficult conversations. And what I'd love to hear from you, Robert, why don't we start with the clip from that? And then I want you to weigh in if you don't mind. Is that cool?
Powerful. I love this.
Okay, awesome. Here we go.
Sky's the limit. It is such a superpower, Callum, to be able to be pissed off and to know that you cannot engage, that it is not time. So I'm going to teach you how to take your emotional temperature. We need to know where we land on a scale of 0 to 10.
Okay.
0, completely neutral, completely chill. 0. 10, out of your mind, blackout rage. Okay? 0 to 3, you're fine.
Yeah.
You should be able to handle yourself, 0 to 3.
Yeah.
4 to 6, you need a timeout. You say, I want to hear more. I have to run to the bathroom. I'll be with you in a second. And you go to the bathroom to create what I call a pattern interrupt. Now, if you're at 7 or above, you're in a part of your brain called your amygdala. It's your fight, flight, or freeze response. It's all about survival. Your body and your brain is responding as though you're being attacked. The term defensiveness is to be taken literally if you're at a 7 or above, because your body responds to normal stress as though somebody's got a gun to our head. So when we fear that our character is being assassinated, which is what you felt like, it feels like somebody's about to kill you. And you're out. You're out when it's like that. There's nothing to discuss. No, because you can't get in the part of your brain that allows you to anticipate the consequences of your actions.
So I want to hear from you right now. How important do you think it is to manage your emotions when you're about to go into a difficult conversation like the one that Callum and Brandy had?
It's everything, right? I mean, it's everything. Because, most communication is nonverbal, first of all. So, it doesn't matter what you say. If you don't say it in the right way, people can't receive it. I love when you use the term, how does it land? Because how something lands is all about the nonverbals. And you can't control the nonverbals consciously as well as you'd like to believe that you can. So, if you're not in a place of equanimity, or at least not in a place of acceptance, when you go to communicate something, you're going to communicate something quite differently from what you want to communicate. So you could be saying, hey, listen, I love you, but if you're angry inside, you're completely frustrated, all your body language is going to say, I hate you.
Right, totally. And I think Callum did a great job of exemplifying that last night, because at one point, I think when he and Brandy first attempted to talk to each other, he said something that I've said a million times, and I teach my clients to say this as well, which is to say, look, I'm telling you the truth. If you don't buy it, that's your problem. That's not mine. But the way he delivered it, it sounded so defensive. And and it shut down, and then he walked away. And it shut down all communication. And even if he had delivered that in an appropriate way, walking away, of course, shuts down conversations. So I think personally that it's so important. I love this idea of having a scale 0 to 10 and just having your formula, And so what I generally do with clients, and I don't know if you've had experience doing this, is to get them plugged into their emotional temperature, I'll have them take it 3 times a day and chart it for me for like 30 days so that they get used to having to identify it real fast, because when you're in the moment, it's so hard to figure out where you're at if it's not like second nature. It has to be like muscle memory.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't track or make progress with something you don't measure. You have to measure it consistently. You're absolutely right. It's practicing like anything else. And, it is a real challenge. One of the things that we used to do at Penn is we put beepers on people. Remember the old school beepers? I don't know if anybody's dating myself here.
Totally,
but
no.
We put beepers on people, and we check it. You beep them at some point during the day and say, hey, a little alarm would go off, and they'd say, hey, we want you to rate how happy you are from 0 to 10. Yeah.
See, this is why getting your master's degree from Penn is the bomb, which I didn't do, and if I ever get another one, that's where I'm going. That is genius. I love that idea. I want to do that with my clients.
It's fantastic. Well, first of all, you would need more wall space for any more degree certificate, so let's just calm down. But I will say, for sure, that that's one of the greatest things about that program. And just in general, with what you're saying, you have to be able to know where you are emotionally at any point in time, because that does dictate how you're received, and also not just how you're received, but also what you receive. As you mentioned so many times before, our emotions kind of work like a lens. And so when you're feeling really grumpy or down or upset or frustrated, it doesn't just affect how people take you and what they think you're saying because of your nonverbals and because of all your body language, but also affects how you receive information. And so you start looking out in the world, and in an angry place, everything looks like it sucks.
100%. If you're looking through an angry lens, the whole world looks that way, right?
Right, exactly, absolutely. So if you can practice every day, like you're saying, multiple times a day, just checking in and saying, how do I feel right now? What's going on inside of me right now?
Because by the way, we have moods. Our moods fluctuate all day long. And when I'm having because we're human. Let's just put that out there, right, Robert? You and I
will, yes.
You and I are very much human beings and fallible, and we make mistakes. There are times during the day where I'm like, phew, Steph, you got to handle this meeting. I got my cranky pants on. I do not have my big girl pants on. Thank God I have a partner on the other side of the wall who I can volley to. Is that what the sports analogy is?
Yes, absolutely. It's great.
who I can throw to, toss to. I should stop while I'm ahead, right? But seriously, because I'm not always capable of it, and neither is she. But I think the hallmark of adulthood is just know thyself, and being able to tap in to where you are at any given point of the day, and figuring out whether or not you're capable of actually having a tough conversation, a conversation that might be triggering to you. Last night, Steph and I had a tough conversation. And it's always right before bed. It never fails. And I was like, Steph, I don't want to mute you. I don't want to shut you down, but I'm telling you, I am tired. I have a big day tomorrow, and I just don't know if I'm in a place where I can make this a productive conversation. Can we couch it for the morning? And let me tell you, until I learned how to do that, Robert, whew, it was very, very bad. Very bad, because Steph's not a fighter, but I am.
Interesting, really.
Yeah.
She does have a dog named Buddha.
She does. She does.
She's probably not a fighter,
That's right.
But, which makes you guys a great compliment in that way. And it's interesting, what you're saying about emotional regulation is everything, right? And it's not just emotional regulation, but also just, like you said, identifying your emotions. You don't even necessarily have to regulate the emotion itself. You just have to sort of be in control of yourself and say, you know what? This is a difficult conversation. I don't have the resources or the energy right now or the bandwidth to have this conversation in a productive way. And that's enough. You don't have to actually have the conversation and regulate your emotions and all that stuff in that red hot moment. You can wait. You can just explain it to someone. And it's everything. And it's one of the things I do with my clients as well, is I say, listen, you have to be clear of how you're feeling in any particular moment. And when it comes to big decisions or big conversations, you always want to put those off until you're feeling better. Always. Mm-hmm. Because when you're not feeling good, you're not going to make good decisions. You're not going to have productive conversations. You think that you do. You think that you can. But you simply can't. You just don't have the resources at that point in time to do it productively.
And if we're going to totally Monday morning quarterback last night's episode, I will say the minute I saw them with drinks in hand going into that conversation, red flags for me right away. Because, you think that one drink is calming you down. And I don't know that it was one drink. It was nighttime. I had obviously we had sober group and sober sessions. But what they did in the evenings was of their own choice. Wasn't that after an evening out? It was after an evening out. No, was it? I don't know. Anyway, the point of the matter is, for me, the first red flag was don't have a conversation where you've had a drink or more in you. And right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the interesting thing about this is that one of the things that's, I think, difficult to remember and explain to people is that when you feel the most desperate and needy in terms of having a conversation is the worst time to have it. It's the worst time to have it. You want to be able to have the conversation when you don't feel desperate to have the conversation, when you don't feel needy in terms of having that conversation. And it sounds so counterproductive.
It sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yes,
because you would think that the time to unburden yourself is when you're feeling so desperate, but you have such attachment to the outcome at that moment that you can't be even remotely objective in the conversation.
Right. No perspective. You've got no perspective. You're way too close, way too in the weeds, and your emotions are dictating the direction of the conversation completely. And you don't realize that, and then you add a drink or 10 or 20 or however many drinks, and you got to, it's a recipe. It's a perfect storm for a blow-up like that. It's inevitable.
So what do you say we invite people to send us their email addresses and their names, and we can literally, for the next week, we'll email them at random times of the day, asking them to plot their emotional temperature.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely.
So that is absolutely your homework for this week. If you want to, you are welcome to email us. My email is darcy@askdrdarcy.com, and I will pass that along to Robert, and the two of us will put our heads together. We will figure out random times of the day, 2-3 times a day for the next week, to email you and ask you to plot your emotional temperature, and that will be the beginning of you building your emotional intelligence.
Love it.
Thank you, Robert, so much for joining me for this.
No, thank you, Darcy. I appreciate it.
All right, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 7 of Famously Single. Bye.